Hillary Clinton. Tonight in studio, she's the first woman to be appointed Majority Chief Whip in the history of a parliament here in Kenya. With me in studio tonight, nominated Senator Beatrice Elachi. Welcome. Thank you very much for joining us tonight.
Thank you.
I want to get your thoughts on Hillary Clinton, who was once a senator, just borrowing from the fact that she could be the first woman president of the United States. What are your thoughts on that?
Well, one lessons that we learn from her, that indeed when you're a woman, you have to be consistent with your agenda, whether it's hard for people to believe, whether you feel that this is not right, but if you're consistent in what you believe in what people see you are, and move on and deliver what you have promised, because I think the biggest challenge is deliver. And then go through the waters of having an office, and maybe you're supposed to be responsible. There's issues of mismanagement that come in, and monies of, with our country with corruption, then it becomes a bit tricky for a woman.
Yeah, and from that statement, it becomes tricky for a woman. And looking at Hillary Clinton, she's being backed by two presidents, endorsed by two presidents, Bill Clinton, Barack Obama. Here in the country, do you ever see such a scenario?
No, because one, we have refused to institutionalize what political parties are. And until we appreciate that political parties are not vehicles just to take you to your next level of being a member of parliament, but it's what do you believe in? What is the values of this party, the ideology? Do you bring together the country? Do you run and understand what people want for your country? That is when women will have to move the way Hillary has moved, because one of the things, she has been consistent with the ideals and values of the Democrats. She has never changed her party. And therefore she has a backup of where people will understand her, that regardless of what, Hillary is a Democrat. You cannot now start saying she's a watermelon, she, you know, the way we do it, or a banana or an orange. Yeah. And I think if we institutionalize systems, then it gives a better platform for women to vie. Today, even for me, I know the biggest challenges that I face is that you are in leadership. I think we are just, for now, the three of us, me, Naomi Shaban, and Deputy Speaker Joyce Laboso. And sometimes when you come to media, you have to come to this media, go to the other media, and people will ask, is she the only one that knows all these issues? But they don't understand. As a woman also, you're faced with the biggest challenge. One of the things that media tells us is that if you're given an opportunity, don't say no. So you have to come in, regardless of what is happening, but be consistent and try to deliver the message. Let people understand.
We want to get to your life story, but before that, your advice to women MPs who are not vocal in the House, or even with the media, who don't sell your agenda as women to the media, or even in the House, who are extremely silent until the next election. Very quickly, as we get to your story, Beatrice.
I would say that they are not silent. I think there's this thinking that if I go so much on media, I open up a lot of critics, I open up a lot of challenges, and then the fear of being put on social media. So one of the things women should ask themselves, or we need to do, is that when you are in politics, it's bare knuckles, and you must face it. That you have come, you've taken space for your colleagues who are the men, who believe this was ours. And therefore you must prove to them, number one, you are there at any given time on duty, that you are responsible and you believe this is any duty, regardless. It can be like the way doctors do it. It's the same way that politics. It's not just politics. It is a responsibility that you are the decision-making organ, and you must ensure you've come in to do something that will transform those who believe in you, and even transform lives, and therefore people will believe in you. The most difficult part is that power has a way of, you must influence people for you to gain that power. You must be one person that can convince, whether people look at it negatively or positively, but you can convince until somebody believes in what you're saying. So that is one thing women should do. I know some of the women are very strong in the constituencies, and maybe it's how now you put that together in terms of working with media, so that also people would see the good things that you're doing. Remember how Martha Karua, and I think those are our role models, Charity Ngilu, those are our key role models who started in the 90s. And one of the things they were very consistent is in the ideal that she believes in, regardless of even when I'm being tramped on, I have to stand on what I have said, and I will live with that.
Well said. I want to trace your footsteps. Let's go back way in time. Where did you grow up, go to school?
I grew up in Kakamega, went to school to Moi Girls Rokoli, finished, decided first of all to go for college, did a diploma in conflict resolution. When I finished, I decided again to change my whole entire career. I know my mom really wanted me to be a nurse, and therefore at one point I joined, and I just went back home and said, no, this is not my career, so I left. That's for another day.
Oh, I didn't know that.
Well, it's a very interesting part.
Yeah, that's quite.
Because I told her, one, I have to be in control of. People are just dying. I don't think I'm willing to see that I cannot manage one life or another. But then after that, I decided first to do an internship at McKinney School, and I know Mrs. Mary gave me the opportunity
as a teacher.
As a teacher, and I wanted just to learn how children relate to each other when they are growing up. So she gave me an opportunity to be in the middle and lower class. And it was very interesting how rich children will come and give you very interesting stories.
Such as?
Dad came at this hour, and you know, he just removed the gun. And you're like, wow. Gun? Yes, teacher.
Came at this hour drunk, obviously.
Drunk, of course. And at that time I used to wonder, wow, and I wouldn't say a name of one of them who had quite a good number of children at that time at McKinney, where we used to send the bus to bring. But these children grew up in a situation where, and that's why it's very interesting when you look at today's schools getting banned. I just want to give that you have like 10 wives, but all your children will have to go and live with one mother. And at that time, you would wish your children to relate. But sometimes it's difficult, because at one point, mom will want to go with this child and this child. So it was very interesting. But at that time is when I realized that when we are women and you go through domestic violence, we have to be very careful in how we bring our children at the time we are in that conflict, or else it will either derail your child or change completely the way a child will view a family because of fear and all that. And having said that, it is something that as young women who are now getting into families, is that sometimes when we have conflict, we will try our best. Because even us have gone through conflict, we have seen how it works, how painful it is sometimes. But in the end, we must also try our best to tell our children that in family, yes, we can have this, but the best thing is how we move on and how you mold them to move on. Sometimes maybe that's why you find children from us, grown from a single parent, are very strong children, depending on how now the mother nurtured them and they moved on.
Thanks for sharing that. I want to go back to the post-election violence, and this is tying in to conflict and conflict resolution, and the fact that you hosted 15 women IDPs, I believe, in your home at the time. And I also know that you were quoted as saying that had the men in Parliament or in politics at that time listened to the women that were crying out for families and for women and children in this country, that conflict would not have happened. Put that situation into context and what that was about, you actually bringing IDPs into your home.
You know, at that time, I was given an opportunity by the late Mishoki to work within the Kibaki tenure system. And when we were going for the campaigns, which I'm hoping those are some of the lessons I always learn as we move on to these other campaigns that we're going through, you would feel the ground as a woman. You would go, you have spoken, you're in Marakwet, but women will tell you that, you know, this is what is happening. After all the campaigns, this is what is happening. But you know, when you come to men on the table, they wonder, what are you talking about, you woman? What? But in the end, when it happened now, the reality is when you realize men do not have this heart of realizing that indeed people are dying, and they will not take responsibility that we started something, but we are now not in control. And that is one thing I've realized many politicians don't take responsibility. That when you utter your words, they are so powerful, but you forget the majority you are uttering to can be overwhelmed, and you will find yourself also being overwhelmed because you can't control anymore what you've just lightened. And therefore you find people doing things, and at that time, the 15 women, first of all, I go to a place right in the middle of KU. It was like 70 kilometers from Band Forest. There's a farm called Nyakinwa, and you find very old women. They had walked for 3 days. 3 days, and using the forest within Band Forest just to arrive to the road. So we ascend, and they had really called in, kindly, just help us. There were some who were key in the politics of Kibaki, and therefore they were like the mobilizers, so they were targeted. So when they came to Nairobi, I was like, you know what, I was one of the directors. I cannot now run away from this responsibility. But what hurt me most is that you have 15 women, you know some of them were very rich, their homes have just gone down. It's the same way again. Even when men take over power, they do not remember. They do not remember that you've just used these people and you've left them with nothing, and now they have become IDPs. To date, I know 2 passed on. They are there. They have built their lives as they move on.
Has life ever been the same, though?
But it will never be the same. And that is why even when we go and we say we are reconciling, we are forgiving, we have to be very careful that in 10, 15 years, the children, or 30 years down the line, the same children will come now when they are grown-ups to ask questions. It is always important for those who are responsible, and even us in government, to go back and ensure these children are able to go to school, they are able to move on, and if they are positions and they have performed, give them the opportunity.
Being female and young, how are you able to control the older and experienced senators in the House? Like I said, she's the first woman majority chief whip in the history of Parliament. You're female. There are other older experienced senators. The other day I was hosting one of the senators here in studio, a female, and she said, yes, she has been shushed down. She has experienced moments where her opinion, she can feel the vibe, doesn't really count. So how do you control those older and more experienced senators, particularly the male ones in the House?
Lillian, you can't control them. What you do, sometimes I always say, in politics is a win-win situation, and therefore sometimes you just have to look at their egos and appreciate that they've been there. It's like the learned friends. So there's a senior counsel, and they appreciate each other. So I have learned all of them are scholars at the moment. They are very senior learned friends. And all I can do is, first of all, respect that. So that by the time I would wish them to listen to me, it's a manner of where you respect me, I respect you. And I think one of the things I just want to thank them, that so far down the line, as we go to the 4th year, I have never had any conflict between. That doesn't mean I will not have conflict. Conflict is there, but it's how I manage. Some of the conflicts are very interesting, even from my female senators. But you know, I always say in leadership, you must learn your team, and you have to know this one is a more aggressive team. How do you manage when one is very aggressive? You listen, and you, as long as you will not translate into giving in. But if I can achieve my goal, then I will listen to each. I think that's the most important.
And you know, a lot of comments coming in from the grassroots is that people sort of get the sense that the National Assembly and the Senate do not reason together in terms of putting the country's interests first, that these are two separate entities and therefore everybody sort of just lobbies for their own agenda. Yeah. What's your response to that?
Well, it's true, and it's very unfortunate. And I know the President is one person who would wish that we can reason together, because what we are doing is for the country. It's not really for our own selfish. But there's one thing also in politics, that everyone would wish to have their control of something, and therefore they will. You find that's sort of supremacy battle we normally talk about. It's a very interesting supremacy battle. But I think at the top of the leadership, if we would have wished to let this go, it will go. You know, it's how you just lead. It's how you, if in the National Assembly and the Senate will believe the same bill I do, in the end of the day, when the President assents on a bill, it no longer says it's a National Assembly bill or a Senate bill. It's Parliament's bill. So until we just get to understand a few interpretations of what it means to have a bicameral house, I think if we had worked together, today even the counties would have worked better than what I see. But because of our supremacy, and maybe because of it's a new constitution, we are still within those teething problems. Maybe that's why. But for me, I believe, and I really always wish that, for example, if it's the governor and you have your members of parliament, if you can sit together on a table and agree, and I'll give an example of, for example, Turkana County. For the last 3 years, you have received not less than 44 billion in your county from the national government. If you sat together and you only have 5 constituencies, it means each constituency will take even 3 billion, without even asking them, what do you do with your local revenue? And they would have transformed today Turkana. But
we're yet to see that transformation.
Yes, because of either now the senator already, I want to be the governor feels, why are you coming to take my position?
And in terms of positions, let's talk about you. Do you anticipate running for any position?
Yes, I anticipate to run for Dagoretti North. So a part of this place will be Dagoretti North. I know I already have the challenges. Some will even say Elachi is using Eurobond money to do the campaigns. Many issues, but they are good. I mean, you say, wow, if it's there, well, campaign is money, is money. But the best thing, and one thing I know, that in the campaigns, I would wish to have competitors that will deal with issues. Competitors, for the first time, will ask ourselves, as Nairobians, do we really need to have our brothers from Lavington side and Kawangware side? Yet, it is the mother from Kawangware who comes to take care of my children. Meaning, I have more trust on her than anyone else, because when
Should the incumbent be threatened?
Well, the incumbent is already threatened a bit.
Yeah.
But one of the things that we have done is respect each other, because he's my member of parliament now. And when the time comes, he doesn't need to be threatened, because he's in a different political party. I am in a different political party. I need to be threatened by those who will maybe come during my nomination, which is not an issue, because even in the party, we have democracy. All we need to do is compete and let the best winner win.
And as we begin to wind up, Beatrice, tell us about your family, how you balance work and family. Politics requires a lot of traveling. You are on call 24/7, different media houses really demanding your time and your say on a lot of issues. So this balance, family, tell us about family and work life.
Well, family, how I balance. One, they have At first, my children never used to understand. I have 3 children, then I have of my sisters, and so I have a family of 7, a very serious family. Some are grown-ups, which is good. My sister passed on way back, and may her soul rest in peace. But all of them are my children now, and in our family, we don't know who is who. So they know this is mommy, and there is daddy. Daddy has understood. What I have vowed is I have to protect, to ensure. What I do in my public life is me, because sometimes we subject them to so much that when now it comes the time when you have your trials, it has to go back to family. And so one of my prayers, and every prayer I ask every intercessor whenever I go anywhere, pray that my family will never be dragged into issues of politics, because politics is politics, yes, but we don't need to bring in our personal issues. And one of the things also I have maintained, when I'm home, we have to sit together. I know we have to communicate. I have my 7-year-old who is very, very consistent in asking very serious questions. She will ask you, why is it that you go on Citizen every time? Even her, she asks. How many are you? What is this politics? Every time it's like you're shouting to each other. So there are some things they find very interesting, and so when I go home I can't shout. Because the first thing Jemima will tell me, Mom, you're not supposed to shout in the house. You've been shouting in that parliament. So that's one thing I have learned as a lesson, that what we do outside, sometimes come home and show them that was just for work. At home we have our values. We believe in going to church, and therefore on Sundays, whenever I'm there, and even if I'm not there, there's a principle that they must go for their mass.
Final thoughts, final word from you, mentorship to that young lady, that aspiring CEO, politician, name it, that lady that's watching for you, what it's taken, your mantra.
I just want to tell, first of all, there's a team of young, they are calling themselves Young Jubilee. They'll be meeting tomorrow, 1,500, very young. I met them and I was very impressed. And I want to tell them, the best thing you can do, young people, in any position that you're given, first of all, respect your team. Work with your team. It is not you alone. You cannot change anything alone. Walk a journey with others. And when you walk a journey with others, you will achieve what you want. If you walk alone, you will lose, because you will have those who will backstab you, you'll have those who will want to see you fall, and therefore you will have more negatives than the positives. So young people, and when you're given a position, it is not your position. It is a position for you to transform and others to come in. I was nominated, I have to move on. I will go compete, because I know this position, somebody else must take the mantra and build herself to leave it to someone else. So it's my wish and my prayer that any young person out there, I'm willing to mentor. I know I have many, and I believe in them, and I know you have moved, but work your journey. Don't appreciate shortcuts. Don't be told that you must cheat for you to pass your exam. Work for it. Even if you get a D, that's what you deserve, but you have worked for it, and you know what? With your values, you'll go far.
Beatrice Elachi, Senator, first woman to be appointed Majority Chief Whip, now telling us that she will be vying for Dagoretti North Member of Parliament. That is come next year. Very well spoken. Thank you so much for joining us this evening and for sharing your story. Citizen Weekend continues in just a bit. Wahiga Maura is back with the day's sport. Stay tuned.